Girl vanished at the circus. 6 years later, a box turns up at the dump. The rain fell without pause that night in Santa Fe, New Mexico, tapping gently against the tents of the Grand Villa Circus. The colorful lights reflected in the puddles on the ground, creating a strange mix of joy and sadness in the air. Jack Harris held tightly to his daughter Emily's small hand as they walked among the excited spectators. "Dad, is this the circus Grandma told me about?" Emily asked, her large brown eyes glowing with curiosity. "Yes, sweetheart. It's the same one," Jack replied with a forced smile, trying to hide his concern about the persistent rain. Since the divorce, Jack had felt the emotional distance that had grown between him and his daughter. This trip to the circus was a desperate attempt to reconnect, to make up for lost time. His heart beat with hope, longing for this night to be special for them both. As they approached the entrance, Jack looked carefully at Emily. She was wearing her favorite dress, a purple one with small yellow polka dots that her grandmother had given her before passing away. She cherished it deeply and rarely wore it, but tonight was different. It was special. A gust of cold wind hit them as they entered the main tent. Inside, the atmosphere was completely different from the chill outside. The smell of popcorn, cotton candy, and cheerful music filled the air with a festive spirit. Emily was in awe. "Dad, look at the clowns," she shouted, pointing excitedly toward the center of the ring. Jack nodded, watching the group of clowns on stage. One of them stood out in particular. A man dressed in vibrant colors, but whose expression felt exaggerated, almost unsettling. The sign beside him clearly read, "Snare." After the opening act, there was a short break before the magic show. Emily took the chance to plead, "Dad, can we go take a picture with Snare?" Jack hesitated, feeling a strange chill. Something about that clown gave him an odd, uneasy feeling. But the excitement in Emily's eyes pushed away his doubts. "Of course. Let's go, sweetheart." They walked over to the clown's corner. Snare greeted them with an exaggerated, almost theatrical smile. "Hello, little lady. Ready for a magical photo?" the clown said in a shrill, forced voice. Emily nodded shyly, clinging tightly to Jack's arm. The photographer quickly snapped the picture. The blinding flash left a strange sensation in Jack's eyes, and he felt slightly dizzy. When he came to, he noticed Emily was staring, fixated on the clown. "It's time for the final act," announced a voice over the speakers. Jack took Emily's hand again, guiding her back to their seats. She seemed distant, thoughtful, but he assumed it was just the excitement of the moment. On stage, the lights dimmed until only a single spotlight illuminated the magician. His voice echoed clearly through the silent tent. "Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to witness a magic trick like no other. Tonight, I will make someone from the audience disappear and reappear somewhere else." Jack felt Emily's small hand squeeze his softly. He looked down at her and saw her eyes full of wonder. "And our volunteer will be..." The spotlight slowly swept across the crowd. The little lady in the purple dress. Jack turned, surprised and uneasy, as the light landed on Emily. The audience applauded, but Jack felt a wave of anxiety. "Dad, can I go?" Emily asked, her eyes pleading. He wanted to say no, but the expectant eyes of the audience pressured him. "Of course, sweetheart," he said with a shaky voice. "Just don't go far, okay?" She nodded eagerly and ran to the stage, where the magician welcomed her with a smile. Jack watched nervously as Emily stepped into a large box decorated with stars and moons. The magician waved his hands dramatically, murmuring magic words. "And now you will vanish," he shouted, slapping the side of the box. He opened the door, and the box was empty. The crowd erupted in applause. Jack felt a chill down his spine. but tried to stay calm, waiting for his daughter to reappear. Several seconds passed in complete silence. The magician, visibly confused, began looking around the stage. Little lady? Where are you?" he joked nervously, but the laughter faded quickly as the audience sensed the magician's genuine confusion. Jack shot to his feet, feeling something was terribly wrong. "Emily!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the tent. "Emily, where are you?" The crowd murmured in growing concern as Jack rushed onto the stage, ignoring the circus staff trying to stop him. He reached the magic box, dark and empty. "Where is my daughter?" he roared, grabbing the magician by the collar. "I don't know." This wasn't part of the act, the magician stammered. "She was supposed to appear at the back of the stage." Jack ran behind the curtains, searching frantically. He questioned artists, security, assistants, anyone. "Have you seen a little girl in a purple dress?" "Please," he repeated again and again, met only with confused faces and shaking heads. Minutes turned to hours as the police arrived on the scene. Jack explained the situation over and over, growing more desperate and frustrated. "Calm down, Mr. Harris," said one of the officers. "We'll find Emily." But Jack found no comfort in those words. Helplessness washed over him as he watched the police question the magician, interview performers, and search every inch of the circus without success. Exhausted, he sat on a crate behind the main tent, watching the rain fall as he felt his soul slowly collapsing. Suddenly, a figure caught his eye in the distance. Under the dim light of a post, he clearly saw the clown snare. He was carrying a large bag over his shoulder and moving suspiciously fast toward a separate tent. Something deep inside Jack screamed that he had to follow, that this man was hiding something. He stood up slowly, determined to find out what the strange clown who had been so close to his daughter was concealing. Carefully, Jack began to follow him, his heart pounding with fear and determination. With every step, he became more convinced he'd find answers about Emily's mysterious disappearance. He knew he couldn't fully trust the police. They seemed as lost as he was in the dark and the rain. Jack felt the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one where there would be no room for hesitation or doubt. He wouldn't rest until he found out what happened to Emily, even if it meant facing his deepest fears. That night, among sirens and confused murmurs, Jack Harris began his desperate search for the truth, because deep in his heart, he knew Emily was still out there, hidden somewhere in the shadows of the Grand Villa Circus. And he swore to himself that he wouldn't stop until he found her, no matter the cost. What Jack didn't know yet was that the true horror was just beginning. Jack felt his heart pounding desperately as he rushed through the shadows. The rain poured furiously, slamming against the colorful tarps and turning his shoes into mud as he chased after the clown snare. The sounds of the circus, once cheerful and full of magic, now echoed in the distance, somber and strange. "Wait. Stop right now," Jack shouted, trying not to lose him in the darkness and rain. Snare, moving quickly, disappeared into a secondary tent away from the public eye. His grotesque painted figure melted into the reflections of the water streaming from the makeshift roofs. Jack reached the tent's entrance, soaked, breathing heavily. Inside, there was only darkness, shadows shifting in the dim light, and the eerie sound of raindrops hitting the rotting wooden floor. "Emily?" he called with a trembling voice, looking around desperately. "Where are you, Emily?" He moved slowly through the dimness, his breath ragged, straining to spot a figure or hear a familiar sound. Suddenly, he heard fast footsteps to his left and turned sharply. "Freeze!" a powerful voice shouted from behind. Jack felt a firm grip on his shoulder. Turning, he met the stern eyes of two police officers eyeing him with suspicion. "My daughter," Jack said, struggling to break free. "Please, the clown." He knows where my daughter is." "Calm down, sir," one of the officers said firmly. "This is a restricted area. You need to leave immediately. You don't understand. I just saw him. The clown. He took her ... We're investigating." "Don't make our job harder," replied the officer coldly. Jack felt a wave of frustration and helplessness as the officers escorted him away from the tent, separating him from the last place he'd seen the clown. In the hours that followed, police questioned circus performers, assistants, and checked identification records. Jack watched from a distance, powerless. But something incredibly strange happened. When they tried to verify Snare's information, they found nothing. No official ID, no clear fingerprints. It was as if that man had never existed outside the circus ring. Jack listened in disbelief, a chill creeping through him. Something far more sinister was unfolding. The detective's words echoed in his mind. "We don't have enough information. We'll keep investigating, Mr. Harris, but for now, we need you to go home." Heaviness weighed on Jack's shoulders as he walked to his car. Soaked and defeated, Jack's home felt emptier than ever. Every room whispered painful memories of Emily. Her little laughter, her drawings scattered on the kitchen table, her favorite dress. Everything had become an overwhelming presence, slowly consuming him. Weeks turned into months. Jack hung posters with Emily's photo across the city, visited the police repeatedly demanding answers, but he got nothing but excuses. The investigation stalled, the clown's trail vanished, and the circus left town without a trace, disappearing. As suddenly as it had arrived, desperation seeped into every part of Jack's life. He lost interest in work, in friends, in caring for himself. His face grew gaunt, dark circles beneath his eyes reflecting the growing obsession to find his daughter. Every night, he locked himself in Emily's empty room, staring at photographs, replaying the last moments before she vanished. How could she just disappear? How could no one know anything? His mind filled with relentless questions, reliving that night again and again. Time passed mercilessly. 1 year, 2, then 3. Jack became a shadow of the man he once was, trapped in a destructive obsession. Friends and family drifted away, unable to understand his pain or refusal to give up. But Jack couldn't let go. Emily was still out there, and he had to find her, no matter what. Then, on the 5th anniversary of the incident, the police officially closed the case. Hope of finding Emily nearly vanished, but Jack refused to accept that cruel reality. One cold and lonely afternoon, Jack sat in front of the turned-off television, staring at his tired reflection. A silent rage burned in him, a pain that would never heal. What had really happened to his little Emily? And who was that clown whose face was forever burned into his memory? Desperation gave way to bitter resignation. His obsession turned into deep sorrow. Jack stopped actively searching, but he never stopped hoping. His life became an endless wait, a silent shadow of the loving father he used to be. 6 years later, ... It was a cold DMP morning in Tucumcari, New Mexico. Michael Turner, his back hunched and hands rough from years of scavenging, walked slowly through the heaps of garbage in the town junkyard. The air was thick with sharp, unpleasant smells that he no longer even noticed. While digging through the piles, something caught his eye. Between old tires and broken appliances was a cardboard box carefully sealed with tape. A strange uneasiness made Michael freeze in place. Driven by curiosity, he pushed aside the debris and picked up the box. It was surprisingly light, but something inside shifted slightly when he moved it. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to open it. He found a rusty piece of metal and sliced through the tape carefully. As he opened the lid, a chill ran down his spine. Inside, he found a child's purple dress with yellow polka dots, neatly folded and slightly worn with age. Next to it were a faded clown wig and costume, along with a small crumpled note written in a child's handwriting. Michael picked up the note with trembling hands and read it slowly, his heart inexplicably speeding up. He said the show would never end ... The initial unease shifted quickly into a sharp sense of alarm and suspicion. Something was very wrong with that box. These personal items, abandoned in a junk heap, clearly hid a much darker and more disturbing secret, with urgency building in his chest. Michael grabbed the box and hurried toward his makeshift shelter, an old rusted trailer at the edge of the junkyard. He knew something serious had happened, something that likely involved the police dot as he held the child's dress. In his hands, he realized that this discovery would change his life forever. A voice deep inside told him that someone, somewhere, was still searching for answers, and now he, Michael Turner, held in his hands the beginning of a truth no one had seen coming. What Michael didn't know yet was that this box, forgotten and discarded in the trash, would reopen old wounds and awaken ghosts from the past, revealing a truth no one could have imagined, a truth that was about to change everything. Michael sat frozen in the rusty old chair inside his makeshift trailer. The box lay open on the shaky table, bathed in the pale light of dawn. His pulse quickened as he held the small purple dress with yellow polka dots in his hands. The fabric, slightly worn with time, still held a surprising softness. Michael imagined the little girl who had once worn it running happily, carefree, never suspecting the dark fate that awaited her. "What happened to you, little one?" he whispered to himself, a chill running down his spine. He gently set the dress aside and picked up the worn clown costume, still reeking of stale makeup. He vaguely remembered seeing something about this case on the news years ago, a desperate man searching for his missing daughter at a circus. But the memory was hazy, distant. Finally, he picked up the crumpled piece of paper. The childlike handwriting, drawn in pencil, had faded over time but was still readable. He said the show would never end. The phrase carried a silent threat. Michael's heart pounded as he imagined what that girl might have gone through. His mind wrestled with itself. He knew that getting the police involved would bring trouble, questions about his life and past. And that was exactly what he had always avoided. But the idea of staying silent, of keeping these haunting personal belongings hidden, felt unbearable. "I can't just do nothing," he said aloud, resolute. "Someone needs to know the truth." With trembling hands, he closed the box again, threw on his old coat, and stepped out of the trailer with purpose. The morning cold bit at his face as he walked toward the Tucumcari police station, holding the box like something too fragile to break. When he arrived, he stepped inside hesitantly. A policewoman at the front desk looked at him in surprise, noticing his rough and weathered appearance. "Can I help you?" she asked kindly. Yes. "I think I have something you might want to see," Michael said, his voice unsure. "I believe it's connected to a case from a few years ago. A missing girl from Santa Fe." Her expression changed immediately. She gestured for him to follow her to a more private room. Soon after, 2 detectives came in to examine the contents of the box. "Please wait here," one of them said, visibly intrigued by what they had found. For several hours, Michael answered detailed questions about how and where he had discovered the box. Meanwhile, the officers reviewed old case files and photographs from Emily Harris's disappearance. Finally, the lead detective returned with a grim expression. "Mr. Turner, this belongs to a girl named Emily Harris. She disappeared in Santa Fe 6 years ago. Thank you for bringing this in. We'll be reopening the case immediately. Michael nodded slowly, feeling an odd sense of relief. He had done the right thing, even if it meant confronting painful questions about his own life. Back in a dark, silent apartment in Santa Fe, Jack Harris lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling. He had aged prematurely over the past 6 years, consumed by guilt and helplessness. A scruffy beard covered his gaunt face, a testament to how much he had let himself go since Emily vanished. The ringing phone broke the heavy silence. At first, he ignored it, but when it kept ringing, he slowly stood and answered. "Hello?" he said hoarsely. "Jack Harris?" asked a voice on the other end. "Yes, that's me. This is Detective Gonzalez from the Tucumcari Police Department. We've found something related to your daughter, Emily," the detective said seriously. "We need you to come identify some items that were recently recovered." Jack felt the phone slip slightly from his hand, but managed to hold on. His heart began to pound, a violent mixture of hope and dread exploding in his chest. "Emily? Did you find Emily?" he asked, voice trembling. "Only personal belongings. But your presence is essential, Mr. Harris. It could help move the case forward." Without another word, Jack hung up, rushed to his bedroom, grabbed whatever clothes he found, and got into his car without even closing the door properly. The road to Tucumcari had never felt so long or heavy. When he arrived at the station, he was taken straight to a small room where the box had been laid out on a table. Seeing the purple dress with yellow polka dots, Jack felt a sharp pain in his chest. He immediately recognized the clothes Emily had worn that fateful night. He gently touched the fabric, feeling his soul tear apart all over again. Yes, this belonged to Emily, he confirmed in a whisper. Then he saw the clown costume and remembered the rainy night when Snare's painted face had imprinted itself forever into his mind. His body tensed as he spotted the child's note and read the shaky words aloud. "She wrote this," Jack murmured, tears streaming down his face. "Where is she?" "We don't know yet, but we finally have something solid. We're reopening the case and we'll do everything we can to find her," the detective assured him. Jack left the station in a daze. His mind replayed every moment from the night at the circus, searching for something he might have missed. He wandered aimlessly through Tucumcari's streets for hours, hoping to find answers in the silence. That night, back in his Santa Fe apartment, he sat down with renewed resolve. He carefully laid out every item from the box on the table, analyzing them again and again. Suddenly, while inspecting the bottom of the box more closely, his fingers brushed something odd hidden beneath a folded piece of cardboard. He slowly peeled it back and found a crumpled flyer. Jack unfolded it carefully. A cold chill ran down his spine as he saw the faded, bright colors of the worn paper. Printed in bold letters, he read, "Grand de Villa Circus, next show, Durango, Colorado." His hands began to shake. How could this be? He clearly remembered the reports 4 years ago. The circus had officially shut down. Why, then, was there a new flyer? A surge of fear and hope filled his chest. He knew this discovery was leading him straight back to the dark place he had tried so hard to forget. Snare's grotesque painted face flashed clearly in his mind as a grim thought crossed him. What secrets was the Grand de Villa Circus still hiding? Looking back down at the flyer, Jack knew there was no turning back. The desperate search for Emily that began 6 years ago was far from over, because now, in front of him, was a real lead, one that would take him back into the shadows of the Tero, of the Fedos of the Te Circus, where he would confront the ghosts that had haunted him since that rainy night in Santa Fe, the macabre performance that had changed his life forever. Apparently wasn't over yet. Jack's heart pounded as he took the highway toward Durango, Colorado. Every mile traveled was a mixture of hope and dread. The flyer he had found inside the box, now carefully placed on the passenger's seat, seemed to watch him silently, a haunting reminder of the past that refused to let go. During the drive, his mind overflowed with memories. He could still feel Emily's tiny hand gripping his on that rainy night in Santa Fe. He remembered her innocent smile, the way her eyes lit up with excitement at the sight of the circus. What had they done to her over the past 6 years? Was she still alive, waiting to be found? Questions with no answers, feeding the obsession that now consumed his every thought. After hours of silent driving, Durango appeared before him, quiet, sleepy, blanketed by a cold afternoon breeze. Upon arriving, Jack parked near the local fairgrounds, where the Grand de Villas Circus had supposedly set up. From a distance, he observed the faded but still imposing colorful tents. The circus looked as if it had appeared out of thin air, like a ghost refusing to vanish. Its eerie presence gave Jack chills as he walked slowly toward the back entrance, doing his best to appear confident and unremarkable. To gain access, he posed as a lighting technician. Thanks to his real past experience in event setups, he was able to enter quickly and without suspicion. But the moment he stepped through the rear gate, something felt off. The performers and workers had blank, guarded expressions. Their wary eyes bore into him as if they could see through the facade he wore. "You the new tech guy?" asked a burly, bald man with a gray beard, seemingly in charge of the setup. "Yeah," Jack replied calmly, hiding the tension in his voice. "They told me to come early and get familiar with the place." "Fine. Go straight ahead and get ready for tonight. Don't ask unnecessary questions and you'll be fine." Jack moved on without replying, taking in every detail around him. The air was heavy, thick with moisture and odd smells, and the atmosphere grew more oppressive with each step. In a dim corner, he clearly spotted a grotesquely painted clown gargoyle whose appearance bore an unsettling resemblance to the missing snare. Jack's breath quickened as the clown slowly approached, his piercing eyes locking onto Jack with intensity. "Haven't seen you before," Gargalo said, his voice feigning warmth behind a disturbing grin. "Are you new here?" "Yeah, just arrived," Jack replied, trying to steady his voice and hide his nerves. "Just here for the job." The clown tilted his head slightly, studying him in silence for several long seconds. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. But Jack could tell he had raised suspicion. For the next few hours, pretending to adjust lights and run cables, Jack used every chance to observe the circus carefully. He noticed that several trailers were hidden behind a torn, dirty tarp in a secluded area of the lot. Curiosity took over. Seizing a moment when the guards weren't looking, he crept closer. As he neared the trailers, he heard faint voices, children's voices, coming from inside one of them. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. The voices were low and muffled, mixed with soft sobs and whispers. He reached out to the metal door, about to open it, when a harsh voice stopped him cold. "Hey, what are you doing here?" It was the bald man, glaring at him threateningly. I got lost. "Just looking for the lighting storage," Jack stammered. "This area's off limits to new hires," the man barked. "Get back to work, and don't ever come near here again." Jack backed off quickly, heart racing with fear and frustration. But one thing was certain: he had found a real lead, and now he was being watched even more closely. That night, the show began under a sinister cloud. Hidden in the shadows, Jack observed the strange behavior of both the audience and the performers. There was no genuine joy in their smiles. Everything felt mechanical, rehearsed, as if something awful lurked beneath every step and movement. During the main act, Gargalo took the stage with a disturbing flair. Every move reminded Jack vividly of Snare, sending a shiver down his spine. After the show, while pretending to pack up his gear, Jack felt a presence behind him. Turning around, he found himself face to face again with Gargalo. This time, the clown's expression was colder, more calculating. "Be careful where you stick your nose," Gargalo whispered, stepping dangerously close. "This circus isn't a place for the curious. I'm just doing my job," Jack answered, his voice shaky. "Right. Of course you are," the clown replied slowly, his twisted smile freezing the blood in Jack's veins. "But remember, the secrets of this circus must stay buried." Without another word, Gargalo vanished into the darkness, leaving Jack frozen in place, more certain than ever that he needed to act fast. He returned to his rented room in Durango, unable to sleep. Hours passed in silence until a soft noise at the door startled him. He sat up, glancing around the room, heart pounding. Slowly, he opened the door, but no one was there. He looked down and found a folded white note on the floor. He picked it up and shut the door quickly. With trembling fingers, he unfolded the paper. Written in rushed, anonymous handwriting was a short, chilling message. "If you really want to find her, don't look on the stage. Look beneath it." A powerful chill shot down Jack's spine. The warning was clear, specific, and alarming. Someone knew he was there. They knew his true identity and his purpose. But they also seemed willing to help. He sat slowly on the bed, reading the words over and over. His mind raced with questions. Who had sent the note? Could he trust them? But above all, he understood one thing. The only way to get answers now was to take greater risks, to confront the darkest, deepest secrets hidden beneath the Grande Villa Circus. There was no turning back. He had to uncover the truth, even if it meant descending into the very shadows where horror or hope awaited. The search for Emily, now more dangerous and desperate than ever, was heading straight into a point of no return. And Jack knew he had no choice. He had to find her, no matter the cost. The moon barely lit the tents of the Grande Villa Circus, casting eerie shadows across the damp ground. Jack moved cautiously, each pounding heartbeat echoing in his chest. The anonymous warning echoed in his mind. Look beneath the stage. He crept toward the back entrance of the main tent. After making sure no one was watching, he slipped quietly under the canvas. His breath quickened with every movement. Knowing each second could mean the difference between discovering the truth or vanishing into the mystery forever. Once inside, he pulled a small flashlight from his pocket. The dim beam revealed a hidden trapdoor in the stage floor. Jack shivered as he slowly lifted the heavy wooden panel, exposing a narrow staircase descending into complete darkness. He took a deep breath and began to climb down, feeling the air grow colder and heavier with each step. At the bottom, a damp, dimly lit corridor stretched ahead. The walls, covered in mold, reeked of moisture and confinement. Jack advanced slowly, his footsteps echoing through the silence. As he moved forward, the flashlight revealed something chilling. Small children's items scattered across the floor, broken dolls, rusted toys, tiny worn-out clothes. Jack stopped, a wave of rage and fear surging inside him. It was painfully clear. This place had seen the suffering of many victims beyond just Emily. On one of the side walls, Jack spotted faded crayon drawings, clumsily drawn by a child's hand. One caught his eye, a sad clown holding the hand of a little girl in a purple dress with yellow polka dots. His eyes welled up with tears. That girl, He knew it was Emily Dot as he stared in horror at the drawing. A sudden noise made him spin around. Before he could react, two large men grabbed him roughly from behind. "Let go of me," Jack shouted, struggling helplessly. "You shouldn't have come here," said a cold voice from the shadows. As a man slowly stepped into the faint light of the corridor, Jack's blood ran cold when he recognized the clown Gargalo, now without makeup, revealing a tired yet hauntingly familiar face. The piercing, icy stare was the same one he remembered from that fateful night 6 years ago. "Who are you really?" Jack asked, trying to mask his fear with fury. The man smiled coldly before answering, with a calm that was even more disturbing. "My real name is Victor Grayson. My father owned this circus for decades. I learned that childhood is a valuable commodity for those who can afford it. Wealthy people seeking private, exclusive entertainment." Jack felt dizzy. The horror of the confession sank deep into his mind. "What did you do to my daughter? Where is Emily?" he screamed in desperation. Victor slowly shook his head. "Your daughter was especially gifted. She quickly became one of our main stars. She's in high demand in certain elite circles," he continued with chilling indifference. "But over time, she started forgetting who she was. That made things much easier. You're a monster," Jack roared, fighting back with renewed strength. "Where is she? Give her back." Victor looked at him silently, his face devoid of emotion. "I admire you, Jack. Not many fathers are as persistent as you. But it's too late. Emily belongs to our show now, and that will never change." He signaled to the guards, who dragged Jack down the corridor to a small, dark cell. The iron door slammed shut with a heavy metallic clang that echoed through the gloom. Victor's distant voice followed like a death sentence. "Welcome to the show. Unfortunately, your ticket doesn't include an exit." Darkness swallowed everything. Jack pounded the cold stone walls in desperation. The silence and solitude began to suffocate him, making him fully realize the magnitude of the nightmare he'd been chasing for years. He remained trapped in that lightless cell for hours, slowly losing track of time and slipping into despair. He remembered Emily as a little girl, joyfully playing at the park, her laughter echoing in his mind like a painful melody of everything he'd lost. Suddenly, a sound snapped him from his thoughts. His heart raced as he strained to listen. Soft, delicate voice floated from somewhere nearby in that dark underground labyrinth. Holding his breath, he listened more closely. Gradually, he recognized a tune faint but unmistakable. His entire body trembled as he realized what it was. "Sleep now. Little star, the moon will keep you near. Close your lovely eyes and dream with me, my dear." The child's voice, sweet but tired, echoed gently through the darkness. Jack's heart shattered as he listened. It was the lullaby he used to sing to Emily when she was little. The melody, unforgettable, drifted through the silent, shadowy corridors until it reached him, clear as day. "Emily?" Jack whispered, pressing his face to the cold stone wall, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Is that you, sweetheart?" The singing stopped abruptly at the sound of his voice, plunging the space into an even more terrifying silence. Jack held his breath, praying she would answer, but there was only silence. A silence that stretched endlessly, making him question whether he had imagined it all. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the melody returned, this time clearer, closer. It was her. There was no doubt. Emily was there, somewhere nearby, just as much a prisoner as he was. Jack closed his eyes, letting the tears fall freely as he listened to her sing, clinging desperately to the hope that he could still save his daughter. In that cold, damp darkness, he realized that the horror beneath the circus was far deeper than he had ever imagined. But now he had one certainty: Emily was alive. And he, Jack, would do whatever it took to rescue her, no matter how dangerous, no matter how desperate. In that moment, he made a silent vow to himself and to the shadows around him. He would not rest until Emily was free from that nightmare, even if it meant facing the darkness that had haunted him for so long. Because now he knew Emily was waiting for him. And he couldn't fail her again. "Emily?" Jack whispered, trembling, pressing his face against the cold stone wall. "Please, tell me it's you." A crushing silence filled the darkness of the cell, stretching out for long seconds until a fragile, barely audible voice finally responded from the other side of the wall: "Daddy." Jack's heart exploded in his chest. It had been years since he'd heard that voice, but he was absolutely sure it was her. "Yes, sweetheart, it's me. I'm here," Jack replied through tears, his voice breaking with emotion. "I'm going to get you out of here. I promise." Another silence followed, longer this time, as if Emily were trying to process his words. When she replied, her voice was full of uncertainty. "They told me you'd never come, that you stopped looking, that you forgot who I was." Jack felt a sharp, cold pain cut deep into his chest at the hopelessness in her voice. "They lied to you, Emily," he said firmly. "I never stopped searching, not for a single day. Since the moment you disappeared, I've done nothing but look for you. Please, believe me. Do you promise?" she asked in a faint voice. "I swear it." "With my life, sweetheart." A soft sob echoed from behind the wall. Jack closed his eyes, imagining the pain and fear his daughter must have endured all these years in that nightmare. "Dad." "I don't remember everything," she murmured, her voice shaking. "Sometimes I don't even know who I am or where I am. I just know I'm so tired." The pain crushed Jack from the inside. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his own anguish so he wouldn't scare her even more. "You're safe now. I'm right here, so close. And I won't let anyone hurt you ever again," he said gently. "Can you tell me what happened, sweetheart?" There was a brief silence before Emily began to speak, slowly, revealing fragmented memories buried deep in her mind. "There was a clown, Dad. He was always watching us. He said we were performers, that we had to train, that we were special. But they punished us when we forgot the routines." Her voice trembled more. "He said I was his favorite, that he would never let me go." Jack clenched his fists until they hurt, rage and helplessness burning in his chest. Victor Grayson, the monster behind the clown mask, had stolen his daughter's childhood, her very identity. "That ends now, Emily," he said with determination. "We'll be together again very soon, far away from this place. I promise you." Emily didn't respond, but Jack could feel his words had eased her fear, if only a little. Still, he knew a promise wasn't enough. He had to find a real way out before it was too late. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Durango, Michael Turner stood anxiously outside the police station. For days, he had followed the news, tormented by guilt, convinced he needed to do more than just hand over that box. Without thinking twice, he rushed inside the building and approached the first officer he saw. "I need to speak to someone about the Grand Davila Circus," he said urgently. "I have reason to believe something terrible is happening in there." The officer looked at him in surprise, then quickly led him to a private room. There, Michael explained everything he knew, from the discovery of the box to his suspicions about the circus and its link to the girl who vanished years ago. Within hours, the police mobilized a special unit, recognizing the gravity of the case. Michael watched in silence, feeling both relief and guilt gnawing at him. "We'll do everything we can to save them," the lead detective assured him. "Thank you for coming forward." Inside the circus, Victor Grayson paced back and forth, tense and anxious. He had received an anonymous warning the police were on their way. He knew he had to act fast to protect his grotesque business. "Get her ready to move now," he ordered coldly. "We can't let them find her." The guards obeyed without question, rushing toward the cells. The situation was critical, and Victor was prepared to protect his secrets, whatever it took. In the darkness of the underground cells, Emily began to whisper with renewed panic, "Daddy, they're coming." "I know it. They always come when something bad is about to happen." Jack tapped the wall gently, trying to calm her with the strength of his voice. "It's okay, Emily. The police must be close. I can feel it. They won't take you away again, are you?" "Sure?" she asked, desperate to believe him. "More sure than ever," Jack replied, hiding his own fear. "Just hold on a little longer." Then, from the far end of the underground corridor, hurried footsteps echoed closer. Emily fell silent, terrified, and Jack held his breath, trying to listen clearly. His heart pounded violently. He didn't know if the approaching steps belonged to rescuers or to the men who had already torn them apart once. "Who is it?" "Daddy?" Emily asked, her voice cracking with fear. Jack didn't answer right away, focusing on the sounds approaching. "I don't know, sweetheart, but whatever happens, I'm with you. I won't let them take you away again," he promised, voice steady with resolve. They remained silent, waiting in the dark. Jack could hear Emily softly begin to sing the lullaby again, trying to comfort herself in the face of fear. The melody echoed through the blackness, filling the space with the fragile sound of hope. "Sleep now, little star, the moon will keep you near. Close your lovely eyes and dream with me, my dear." But the song was cut short as the sound of footsteps stopped right outside the cell doors. Jack felt the air leave his lungs, waiting for the best or the worst, not knowing which was about to happen. He drew a slow breath and clenched his fists, ready to face whatever came through that door, determined not to let Emily suffer ever again. The door began to rattle violently, preparing to open. Jack and Emily stood frozen in silence, caught between hope and terror, not knowing what they would find on the other side. In that deep, still darkness, they waited together, hoping the shadows would finally clear, revealing whether salvation or the abyss was about to enter. The metal door burst open suddenly, flooding the cell with a blinding beam of light. Jack squinted, eyes struggling to adjust as urgent voices, rushing footsteps, and commanding shouts echoed down the corridor. "Police! Nobody move!" A firm voice ordered from outside. "We're here. Help us!" Jack shouted with every ounce of strength he had left. Officers stormed into the cell. Two of them rushed to him, flashlights in hand, their faces tense as they quickly assessed the grim scene. Jack pointed urgently to the wall beside him. "My daughter's on the other side. Please, get her out now. She's terrified." Wasting no time, the officers ran to the other door. They forced it open and found Emily curled up in a corner, hugging her knees, trembling with fear. From the threshold, Jack watched through tear-filled eyes as he saw his daughter for the first time in 6 long years. "Emily, sweetheart, it's me. It's Dad," he whispered softly, trying not to frighten her. The girl slowly lifted her head. Her large, dark eyes, filled with uncertainty and distrust, stared at him as if he were a stranger. But slowly, something inside her stirred as she recognized his voice. Hesitantly, she stood and rushed into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "Daddy, Is it really you?" she cried. Jack held her tightly, feeling the weight of all those years finally lift from his shoulders. "It's me, sweetheart, and I'll never lose you again." Above ground, Victor Grayson, known as Snare, was desperately trying to blend into the chaos caused by the police raid. Dressed in regular clothes and without his makeup, he moved through the shadows toward a side exit. But just as he thought he was safe, 2 officers intercepted him. "Victor Grayson, you're under arrest for kidnapping and child trafficking," one officer stated firmly as they handcuffed him. Victor tried to protest, but it was useless. His criminal network, hidden behind the circus facade, had finally been exposed. News of Emily's rescue and the fall of the horror circus spread quickly across national headlines. Michael Turner was publicly recognized by authorities and local media for his critical role in uncovering the key lead in the case. Yet despite the applause and praise, Michael remained deeply unsettled. Every night, he closed his eyes and saw that box again, unable to shake the eerie feeling that not everything had truly ended. In Phoenix, Jack stayed by Emily's side at a specialized recovery center for child victims. The first weeks were the hardest. Emily barely spoke, and when she did, her memories were fragmented and painful. She often woke in the middle of the night, screaming from nightmares about the circus, haunted by the clown who had kept her captive for years. Jack never left her side, offering endless patience and unconditional love. But with each therapy session, each conversation, he could see clearly how the memories crept back piece by piece. "Do you think I'll ever be who I was before, Daddy?" Emily asked one day during therapy, sadness heavy in her voice. "You're going to be even stronger, Emily," Jack replied tenderly. "And I'll never let anything like that happen to you again." The process was slow and painful, but in time, Emily began to show signs of healing. She started trusting again, smiling timidly during quiet moments, and rediscovering what it felt like to be safe and protected. Yet there was something in her eyes that still deeply unsettled Jack, something hidden she hadn't yet spoken aloud, something therapy hadn't fully reached. Months later, Jack and Emily walked slowly through the garden of the recovery center. Spring filled the air with bright colors and gentle scents, bringing a fragile sense of peace. Emily held a folded piece of paper carefully in her hand and finally offered it to Jack. "What's this?" he asked softly. "A drawing," Emily said shyly. "I made it for you." Jack slowly unfolded the paper and studied the image. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Colored pencil lines depicted a lonely circus ring, dimly lit by scattered lights. And at the center, a figure in a purple dress with yellow polka dots, walking away with her back turned. Jack's breathing quickened slightly. He fought to keep his voice steady. "It's beautiful, Emily," he said gently. "What does it mean?" Emily stared at him for a long moment before whispering so softly it was barely audible. "Sometimes I think he's still watching me, Daddy." Jack's expression froze in alarm. His eyes searched hers, trying to understand exactly who she meant. "Who, sweetheart? Who's watching you?" he asked, masking his anxiety. But Emily didn't answer right away. She looked back at the drawing, pointing to the dark space behind the girl's figure. "The clown. Sometimes I feel like he's still there, watching me from some dark place, like he never really left." Jack felt the world pause around him. The sense of calm he'd begun to rebuild shattered instantly, replaced by a deep and undeniable unease. Could there still be something hidden in all of this? Was there danger lingering even after Victor Grayson's arrest? He looked back at the drawing in silence, haunted once more by old ghosts. Emily's words echoed in his mind like a warning. Maybe the nightmare wasn't over after all. Maybe the shadow that had loomed over their lives had never fully gone. Looking at his daughter, Jack realized bitterly and with absolute clarity that their battle for peace and safety was not finished. Deep down, he knew he had to stay alert, ready for any sign that the horror might try to return, because the curtain had fallen, but the performance, dark and twisted, might not be overdone. As they walked slowly through the garden, father and daughter remained silent. Both aware, though neither said a word, that something was still waiting to be revealed, because the shadows of the circus were still there, hidden somewhere deep in memory, waiting patiently for their chance to rise again. And the nightmare, sadly, might still be far from ending.